In today's video, we're going to talk about strings. So what a string is it's a sequence of characters in either single or double quotes, in Python at least. So, as you can see here, we have a string which is in double quotes. So in Python, both single and double quotes mean the same thing. So these two statements here are identical, right? So strings can have anything from numbers to letters, spaces, new lines, and just about any printable character you can think of. So let's see what a string looks like if we try to print it. Okay, so here it is. And this is a single line string because we wrote all the characters we want to on a single line. There's also something called a multi-line string in Python, which you start with 3 single quotes and end with 3 single quotes. So this is basically a string on 4 separate lines. This is line 1, line 2, line 3, and this is line 4, but we don't have anything on line 4. So let's see what this looks like if we print it. There we go. So we got all the lines separately. Like each of these lines got printed on a separate line, which is what we want. Okay, and strings also have, so we can also use escape characters in strings. So why they're useful is, let's say we have a string here, we want to print so we want a single quote character to be part of the string, right? So if let's say we make a string, and let's say we want to put a single quote in the string, right? So if we do that, it's actually going to complain because Python thinks that this is a string and this part, so after the single quote here, it doesn't know what this part is. That's because we started a single quote here and ended it right here. But what we wanted to happen was we wanted the single quote to be part of the string and not denote the end of the string. So how that can be fixed is with an escape character. So what that is it's a backslash. And this backslash actually tells Python that whatever follows it is actually part of the string and is not a special character, basically. It's not denoting the end of the string or something like that. Okay, so this escape character here prints a single quote. Right, so if we uncomment this, right, so there we go. So that's how you print special characters in a string. So here are all the possible escape sequences you can use. So some of the common ones are the single quote, the backslash. So this is used to print a backslash itself. This is a new line. You might use a tab. And that's about all you would use on a regular basis. There are some other ones in here as well that you can take a look at. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is be able to find the length of a string. So the length of this string is for 8 characters long. And that's because the space here is also a character. So how we would find the length of a string is by using the length function. So you would say len, and then pass in the name of the string. In this case, that would be just string. And there is our 8. Alright, so strings are similar to lists in that they are a sequence of things, in this case characters. So we can access individual characters in a string the same way we would do with a list. So this would print the fourth element in the string, which would be the L. So let's try printing the fifth element, because there are two L's here that might be a little confusing. Yep, so this is the fifth element of the string. So that would be index 4, because indices in the list start from 0. So that's how you get individual characters from a string. So if you want to print all the characters in the string on, like each character of the string on a separate line, you do something like this. You would use a for loop. This is exactly the same as what you would do with the list. So it's say for letter and string. So this, the variable letter, each time through the for loop has a different letter in the string. Yep, so there's our printout. Okay, so let's see how we can, one way of printing the string in reverse, right? So this also demonstrates the concept of using negative indices in lists. So how does a negative index, so what does a negative index on a list mean? I mean on a string mean? So let's say we have a string here. So we already have a string here. So let's say we wanted to print the first element from the last. So that would be this. So how would we do that? So one way of doing it would be, and let me comment this back out. So one way of doing that would be saying print, and then we would have to find the length of the string first. So we would say length of string minus 1. The minus 1 is because the length of the string is actually 1 greater than the index of the last element, because the indices start from 0. So if you run, oh, this actually gave us, oh no, this is not what we want. We want to print string of this. So this should be an index of the string. Okay. And there we have it. We got the exclamation. So this is one way of printing the last element. But what we can do is we can say print string of -1. And this is basically the same thing. So it's saying go and get the first element from the last, right? So that's what the negative means. Negative means start from the end and not from the beginning. So this also prints an exclamation. Right? So using this concept, we can reverse a string. So we start from index 1, go to the length of the string plus 1, and say print string of -i. So initially I would be 1, so that would be string of -1, that would be the exclamation, then the D, the L, and so on. Right, so there we have the string backwards. So negative indexing is useful if you want to access something from the end of the list, but don't always want to calculate the length of the list and then, add or subtract to it and then get the element you're looking for. Instead, you can directly add a negative sign and just, directly put the number in there, whatever element you're looking for. Okay, so string concatenation. What is string concatenation? String concatenation is, the process of combining two strings end to end. Right, so this is string 1, string 2. So before that, let's actually, okay, so how you would join the two strings together is with the plus operator. So here we're saying add the contents of string 2 to the end of string 1. Right, so let's print that out and see if that actually works. And it did. Right, so but strings, so what this did is it actually created a new string. Right, so string 1 was not modified. A new object was created for string 1. So let's prove that. So there's a function in Python called id, which returns, so basically every object in Python has a unique id. So the id functions returns that id. So let's print id before and after string concatenation to make sure they're different. Right? So if you see the id here and here, they are indeed different. So strings in Python are actually immutable, meaning that a string once created cannot be changed. So what we're doing here essentially is making a new string for string 1. So we're not modifying the variable here, we're actually making a new variable. Right? So that's why both string 1 before and after have different IDs. Okay, so what if we want to check whether a particular sequence of characters actually exists in a string or not? So we can do that by using the in keyword. Right, so here we're trying to check if this sequence of characters, that's an E space capital D-I, actually exists in the string, which it does. So this should say true. Right, and now we try to remove the space and check this pattern in the string. And this pattern does not exist, so this should be false. So that's basically how you check if a sequence of characters exists in a string or not. Okay, so now let's look at slices. So what slices are it's a mechanism that's used to, it's not a mechanism exactly, it's how you would get a subset of a particular string or list or something. Right, so here, so you would basically use the list notation here and a colon. So that's how you make a slice. Right, so the number to the left of the colon actually tells us which index we want to start at, and the number to the right of the colon tells us the index where we want to end the list at, or the string, I mean. So if you don't have, so both these numbers are optional. So if you don't have either of the numbers, if you just have a colon like this, so that means we want the entire string. So if you print that out, so we got the entire string. So here we're saying start at index 1 and go all the way to the end. And we know it's going all the way to the end because we do not specify a number to the right of the colon. Right, so we are starting at index 1, which is the I, because remember, strings and lists start at index 0. So we get the whole string, but for the first character. And slice 3 would start at index 0 because we did not put a number here before the colon. And it goes to index 3, but not including it. So this would just give us 3 characters, which is the NIN, because it gave us this index 0, 1, 2, and then we stopped at 3, but did not actually consider 3. So that's how this works. And slice 4 would be starting at index 2 and going to index 4 but not including it, so that would just be 2 characters. And we can use negative indexing for slices as well. So here we're saying go from index 0 all the way to index -4, which is basically the f. I mean, excluding the f, that is. So we got all the way here. So now let's look at string formatting. So what we can do while making a string is we can put a bunch of placeholders using curly braces. And at a later time we can go and use the format function to replace those curly braces with whatever we want, right? So here I'm trying to replace this with the current time. Right, so it printed the time is, so that's from here. And this curly brace was actually replaced by the current time. This is basically the number of seconds that has elapsed from January 1st, 1970, I think. Yeah, that's useful. But anyway, so we can also, in the curly braces, specify a number. So this number actually tells the format function which slot each of these things we pass into the format function should go. So basically here, we're saying that the thing in, so the second command line argument, which is index 1, should go here. So the 2 goes here. The 1, which is index 0, goes here. And 3, which is index 2, goes here. Right, so if we for some reason want these arguments, the format function, to go in a specific order, we put the number inside the curly brace in the string. So as you can see here, 2 went here, 1 here, and 3 here. Alright, so let's briefly look at some of the methods that we might find useful when it comes to strings. So there's the find method. So what the find method does is it goes and looks for this particular pattern in the string, and then actually it returns, so if you run this, it actually returns the index at which that particular pattern was found. In the first occurrence of the pattern, at least. So here it's saying the word thief was found at index 12, so this is index 12. Okay, but if we try to look for something that does not exist, it's going to return a -1. So if you ever see a -1 when you're trying to use the find function, just know that the string you're trying to look for does not exist. Or the pattern you're trying to look for in your string does not exist. We also have the upper and lower functions. So what these do is they change the case of all of the letters in your string to whatever case you're trying to convert it to. So here, it converts everything to uppercase, and this one converts everything to a lowercase. And coming back to the concept that strings are immutable, these functions did not actually modify the original string. So this string was never modified. The lower and upper functions return a new string. So we can prove that by printing the original string here, and it still remains the same. So the count function finds the number of occurrences of the pattern we pass into it in the string. So here we're trying to look for the pattern th in this string, and we also convert it to uppercase. So as you can see here, there are 2 occurrences of this pattern, so this should return a 2. Right, so let's look at another example of the count function. So in this string, we're trying to look for the pattern ABC, ABC. But, so there are a couple ways of actually looking at this. So if you start here, here's the first occurrence. So you can either skip all these, so you can count this as 1, skip all these characters, and count the rest of it as 2. So the rest of it here is 2. Or you can say this is 1, this is 2, and this is 3. Right? But the the count function, I mean, so once it finds a pattern, it actually jumps to the next character and starts looking from there. So this should actually give us a 2 and not 3. Yeah, so we did indeed get a 2. So once it finds one occurrence of the pattern, it doesn't go look back. It starts in the next character and goes looking forward. So that's why we only got 2. Because for it to count this, so for it to count this, it has to go back after it counted this and then actually get this ABC here, which it does not. So the isAlpha function checks if everything in the string is an alphabet. Right, so we got it true because everything in this string, every character is an alphabet. So if we try to concatenate the string with a 3, which is not an alphabet, and call the function, we get, it should say false. Okay, so let's look at the join function. So what the join function does is it combines a bunch of strings in a list into a single string. Right? And whatever character you put in the quotes here is actually the delimiter. Right? So let's see what this actually does. So here it prints hello world. So the delimiter here is a space. But if you get rid of this space, as you can see, it printed everything, right next to each other without a space. So what a delimiter is it is the sequence of characters that each of these elements in the list should be separated by when they are joined together. Right? So if you put a space in there, as you saw before, there's a space separating each of these elements in the list. Right? And now we look at the opposite, which is the split function. So what the split function does is it takes a string, takes in a delimiter as a parameter, and splits the string into a bunch of pieces separated by this delimiter. So this is basically the opposite of join. Right? So let's say words is equal to string.split and separated by a space. And this should give us the list back. Right, so this is basically the list we had here. So I intentionally deleted the words object to make sure, to prove the point that it's actually creating a new one and we're not just printing this list up here. Right, so that's what the del keyword does. It deletes an object. Okay, so that'd be it for me. So if you want to go look at more functions to do with strings, you can go check the official Python documentation on strings, which is linked here. So have a good day.